I'm Douglas Estes, Associate Professor of Religion at New College of Florida.
And I'm Alicia McCullough, Associate Professor of Spanish, Portuguese, and History.
And I'm Miguel Benitez. I'm the Dean of the Master of Education in Educational Leadership.
Welcome to the Mighty Banyans on the bay, but now we're on the banyan, right?
Under the
banyan. As you've noticed, we've changed our setting. And welcome, Miguel, for being here. Miguel is new for our viewers and listeners at New College. You came as dean, right, in the Masters in Education and Educational Leadership. So tell us, how are you adapting to this new position?
Yeah, excellent. First of all, thank you both for having me on. I'm excited to continue to kind of get plugged into the community here. It's a really exciting time. I think it's an exciting time at New College, and it's an exciting time for the program. So it is a Master of Ed in Ed Leadership, and the program is geared toward preparing teachers or those that are in the education field who want to be leaders in education. So it's a program geared primarily toward K through 12 education. And so, yeah, the hope is that we can get best teaching practices for the leadership of K-12 schools that then can be taught to the teachers and so on, in hopes that we can see real transformation happen in the classroom and then in the schools.
Great. Tell us a little bit about your background. What brought you to New College?
Yeah, so I'm part of why I'm really excited about the program is that we're trying to do two things that oftentimes aren't brought together, and that is we very much want to maintain our identity in this Master of Ed and Ed Leadership, our identity at New College as a liberal arts college. And so we embrace the liberal arts in the program. This is a program that is typically more geared towards a particular profession, but we want to incorporate that liberal arts foundation throughout the program. And so what we're doing, one of the ways in which we're doing that is by bringing together the great books. So there's a great books element to the program, and we also are emphasizing the latest research in cognitive science of learning. And so the way in which we're bringing that together is by having a great books component through every single course, and then having different emphases depending on what the course is with that latest research. And so the reason I think I was brought on is because I do have experience in the K-12 setting as a teacher. I've been able to lead, develop curriculum, those sorts of things, but also my PhD program. So my PhD is in humanities with a concentration in philosophy, but it was a great books program. And so I think I was brought to kind of bring that element. We're really excited. We're in the process of bringing on a new faculty member that'll join me in the launch of the program in fall of 2026. And so that's kind of what we're looking to do is kind of bring those two worlds of cognitive science and great books together.
Yeah. Does that make us unique? And in what way?
Yeah, absolutely. So it makes us unique in a couple of ways. One is it makes us unique in a great book. I don't know that you can find, at least in the Florida school system, another college or university that is doing great books at the graduate level, and certainly not in the education space. But also, the cognitive science of learning, there is legislation that is just being passed right now as we speak that is going to require cognitive science of learning in K-12 settings, but it's brand new. And so really what you have is teachers that are already teaching that likely haven't received that kind of education, that kind of training, that are now going to be trying to get caught up. So we actually think we can be a great program for many of those teachers to come get a master's degree. It prepares them for administration if that's the direction they want to go, but they will certainly get that cognitive science of learning piece as well.
Yeah. It seems like to me also that the master's program in general is widespread throughout the U.S., right? And at the same time, it's oftentimes focused narrowly on a job skills kind of program, but we are intentionally building in something deeper with the humanities and the great books, and in such a way that the alumni from New College in this master's program will have a breadth that they take to their classroom.
Yes, that's exactly right. We actually very much see this as a nice fit. A lot of our graduates go on to have jobs in education.
Sure.
And I think it's fitting. If you think about somebody who maybe has an area of concentration in biology or in literature or in languages or in philosophy, a very natural kind of place for them to go is into teaching, because there aren't these fixed jobs if you just have a bachelor's in those areas,
Sure.
right? And so teaching is a very natural kind of career path for them to take. And we think new college grads would be a perfect fit into the program because they've already kind of, they've gotten used to the kind of culture that we want around this program, and it prepares them. It gets them the classes they need. It brings the best teaching practices for them to use in the classroom so they can grow as a teacher. So we're really excited about the potential of having students that are graduating from New College. They already have this liberal arts foundation,
Right.
and now they can bring that into this particular context of how to be a great teacher and how to teach others to be great teachers.
Right.
Yeah,
And long term, we're thinking also about a 3-2, right?
Yes. So
nice.
we are working toward establishing a 3+2 because this is a brand new program and we don't have that undergrad education. We are going to have to develop that, but we do hope that within the next year or two, we'll be able to unroll the 3+2. That way our graduates are leaving here with a master's degree in just 5 years.
Okay, great. So what is like a class that you're looking for, or that your favorite class, or what's a class that you teach that you're really excited about in this program?
So one of the classes that I'm very excited to teach is called Philosophical and Historical Foundations of Education. And so basically what we will look at is the history of Western civilization and explore what has it meant to be an educated human being. And so we will read people like Plato and Aristotle, and then we'll read people, much more recent and discuss how do we think about an educated person. Because if we're going to be educators, we really need to wrap our minds around what it means for someone to be educated, because the goal, after all, is to help people receive their education.
Right,
and
right.
so we'll explore some of the philosophical themes, but also practically, what did that look like? What did it mean to receive an education in ancient Greece? What did it mean to receive an education in the Middle Ages, and so on? So that's one that I'm really looking forward to being able to teach.
Okay, good.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more, Miguel, maybe for people that are not so familiar, because I think most people are familiar with what great books are, but
Sure.
a little bit more about cognitive science of learning.
So the cognitive science of learning, and it's a fascinating field. Basically, a lot of work has been done in looking at schools, K-12, to determine which are the more successful schools, where are students getting the best outcomes. And unfortunately, this is just a reality. If we were to plot those schools on a graph, you would see a direct correlation with socioeconomic status of the families that attend those schools. There's just a direct correlation. But what we find when we plot that chart is that there are certain schools that are outliers in a positive sense. They are outperforming their peers that fall into the same kind of area of that graph.
Okay.
And so researchers have been asking, what are the outliers doing that is different from their peer schools? And so they've started to gather a lot of this information. I think conveniently for us, it's much of what the ancients were doing along the way anyway, but they've given us categories to think about it.
Okay.
They've given us names to use, ways that we can be intentional in incorporating these ideas, as opposed to just kind of catching it by having done it, right? And so now we can be more intentional about how we're going to incorporate these practices in the classroom. And what we're finding is this is the way that students because we're connected as human beings through human nature, this is the way we tend to learn best. And so we want to be very intentional about creating those opportunities in the classroom, whether it's math or science or language arts or whatever the subject is, being able to communicate in a way that challenges students. And two of the major ways in which we want to see that kind of engagement as students is we want them thinking in the classroom, and we want them being able to engage with each other in discussions about what's going on in the classroom. And so again, we find that when teachers do this, you get better learning outcomes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and it seems like, marrying this with great books is like a really perfect combination. And incredibly that there are no other schools that have thought of this.
Sure. No, absolutely. I think that they come together very well, but also what the great books provide us with is great content that we can then have our teachers apply these practices while in the classroom. So the goal is not just to discuss theory in this program. We'll discuss theory, but immediately now is, okay, now teach it to us. How can you incorporate these skills that we're discussing when we're looking at a section of the Republic or something like that, right? So being able to, because we also want to recognize that we have to think about how, but we also have to think about the what, because education is not divorced from the content. And
Yes.
so the content of education is also important. And so we think the great books provide us with a rich tradition of content for us to wrestle with when we're thinking about education and educational practices.
Okay, good.
So will there be distinctive tracks at some point in the program, like for, leadership is one thing, and then educators that want to go and teach in the classroom? Will there be differences there?
Yeah,
or?
it's a great question. And again, we have to keep in mind it's early days for our program. Inevitably, there will be evolution to the program as we go. So I said it's an exciting time to be at New College. It's a really exciting time for our program. But really, when you think about much of what Florida has done in terms of school choice and those sorts of things, it's just opened up a world to families that were not previously available. And so we really do want our program to be all things for educational leaders. So if you are in a traditional public school, we want to be a place that will help you grow and excel in your current position. If you're at a classical school, if you're at a charter school, if you're at a hybrid school, if you're at a micro school, all these different options that exist today, we want to be a resource to those teachers and those educational leaders. So as far as tracks go, we're exploring different possibilities. We're exploring what is our core that we want every teacher to walk away with, and then where do we have a little more flexibility. But our real goal would be that in this program, if you don't have prior teaching experience, you're going to gain significant teaching experience while you're with us and be ready for the classroom when you graduate. If you already are a teacher, hopefully we can help you become an even better teacher, and you'll be ready for those leadership positions, whether that's instructional leadership, dean, assistant principal. And so our program, working through the Department of Education in Florida, will, and again, we haven't officially, I need to say that, right? We haven't officially gotten this yet, but we will before we start the program. We will be a approved leadership program, and so our graduates will be ready to take the Feely test, which is what allows them to get that level 1 certification so that they can be deans or assistant principals or instructional leaders in the classes.
How about the certifications for people who want to go and teach?
Yes. So in Florida, getting a temporary certificate to be a teacher, let's say you didn't go the traditional route of getting your bachelor's degree in education. Basically, if you have a bachelor's degree and you take the general knowledge test, as long as you're teaching in your area, you get 5-year temporary certificate, but it's non-renewable. So really what the state of Florida is saying is, we're going to give you 5 years to get caught up where you need to be when it comes to the education piece of this. And so if you want to teach in an area that's not what your bachelor's degree is in, you can still do it, but you have to take an additional test, which is the subject area test. You just have to show competency in that area that you want to teach, which makes sense. And so, so that gets you 5 years. Then you have to go and get courses done that help you meet other core competencies in order to get that permanent certificate, which is the one you can keep renewing over time. Well, there are 6 core competencies that people with a temporary certificate need to meet. Right now, and unfortunately, the Florida Department of Education doesn't just give you a list of courses. It's just a case-by-case basis. So we've been reviewing that as a program. We're confident that we meet 5 out of the 6. It is our goal to meet all 6 so that you can just come to our program. If you have a temporary teaching certificate, by the time you're done with us, you can apply for that permanent certificate. So we're working toward that. I don't know that we're there just yet, but we're going to do our very best to make that happen.
Yeah. It sounds like that one of the huge benefits of the program is that for many people, they will feel that they have to take a master's degree in education, right, to continue teaching. But one of the things that's cool about New College is that because we have the great books, because we have the humanities built into it, it feels like maybe a little less of a labor than it otherwise could.
Yeah, and I think in some ways, especially for some of our students, I think it allows them to take the thing they're already passionate about and now become really good at communicating it to others, right? And so, I'm thinking of a philosophy major or a history major. It's not like now they're jumping into this education space where everything is foreign to them.
Right.
The great books help us bridge that gap for them,
Right.
where we're moving them from Plato and just the philosophical topics he talked about to Plato the instructor, Plato the teacher, right? And so we're being able to kind of bridge that gap. And honestly, it's especially with, again, all the different teaching opportunities you have in Florida, it really is a great career path for the humanities-driven folks that, otherwise are having to go, eventually you're going to have to get a PhD in order to teach in higher ed.
Yeah.
And those
Which is
jobs are
fraught
not
with
There are no
problems.
jobs. There are
Right,
no
yes,
jobs.
No jobs.
Absolutely. Right? And so we say that as 3 humanities folks
Yes,
here,
we
right?
know
but
about this,
but
yeah.
we know what the job market's
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah.
where there's a shortage
Like
of
winning the
K-12
lottery.
teachers.
There's a
Yeah.
big
There's
shortage.
a massive shortage. And I think what we also do, because I think the assumption is for a lot of people, I know I at least held it, I have K-12 experience. I know Alicia has K-12 experience.
I do not.
You do not. Okay. So I think one of the assumptions is, well, no, I want to be able to really teach the subject that I know. And the assumption is you can't do that with K-12. And I want to say
not
false.
true.
Yeah.
False. You absolutely, in fact, we need you in the classroom to teach that thing that you love to teach.
Yes.
But let us help you bridge the gap on how to teach it really effectively.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want to do.
Yeah. Well, it's really great for you to be here with us today, Miguel, and to talk about the new program that's coming at New College. And
To our listeners and viewers, if you have any questions about this exciting new program at New College, you can either write to us or you can find Miguel Benitez in the catalog and write directly to him. And we will be seeing you soon in another new podcast.